Hello, welcome to Steve McDonald's Crafting, and as promised, what I'm going to be doing today is wood burning, but without any actual hot wood burning tool. I'm going to be using chemicals. I promised I'd do one on this. Now, first one I'm going to be using is ammonium chloride, and the second one I'm going to be using is this wood scorch pens. And all this is available easily from my links below. But before I get going, there are certain things that you need to consider. Ammonium chloride does make ammonium gas, so you need to be really careful, work in a ventilated area, and ensure you've got gloves on and some eye protection, and read the information on here. Now, these are all food safe items that I'm going to be using today, because actually they're all things that are added to food. Apart from this, but this is considered to be food safe as well. So once it's been done, you can then put food on whatever you're using. Now, I'm going to be making 2 more garden signs because I really like the garden signs and they are very, very popular as well. And I'm going to just write a little saying on those. And I'll make the stencil for these using my Cricut. Now, I'm testing which one works best, the ammonium chloride or the scorch pen. Now, before I get started, I need to make my template, and what I'm going to be using for this is just some permanent vinyl that I'm going to cut. It doesn't matter what colour it is, because it's going to be used as a stencil. And the reason I use permanent is it keeps on there really nice and easy, and it will come off the wood easy. I want a plant put on it first. I'm just going to type in plant there, scroll down until I find one that I particularly like and I think will make a good stencil. That one, quite like that. Add to canvas. Now I need to add the text. I'm going to write on there, how's it growing? I want the growing underneath. Growing. And I'm not sure what font I want to have, so let's have a look at some fonts. Oh yeah, I like that. Right, let's just put a question mark at the end of that. And I want the line spacing to be a little bit less than that. I want it to be a bit nearer. And now I'm going to attach those so that if I move them, it's just going to move around in one easy go. And then I can easily measure up the size of my piece of wood. And I work in centimetres on the Cricut. I just find it easier. I need this whole thing to be 15, so about 14. And then I want to make it 10 down just to see what it looks like. So I'm just going to unlock that. And then see. Yeah, and I think that's going to be fine like that. So that's going to be easy to cut out. I just have to have it on basic cut. I now need to just load in my mat with my vinyl attached to it and cut it out. And then I'll show you how I'm going to weed it so that it is a stencil rather than how you would normally weed it. Both my stencils are now cut out, and I'm not sure if you can fully see. Oh, you can if I get it there like that. So what we want to do is, rather than leave the letters behind this time, we want to take them away. Now, I like to weed on the mat because I just find it so much easier. So all I need to do first is to cut along here so that I know when I take it off the mat, it's going to come off nice and easy. I'm also going to go over it with my little roller and get it all nice and flat. And I find this helps me a great deal when I'm weeding. And I like to use a weeding pen. And again, like I said, you need to take the letters out because that's going to form the stencil. And then once your letters are all weeded out, what you need to do is weed out the bits on the plant pot. But remember, you're doing it in kind of reverse. So you want the bits that you would normally weed out left in. And I find that this is quite... Sometimes I have to keep thinking about, hang on a sec, is that right? Is that right? But once you get the knack of it, then you should be okay, even though I've just pulled a bit out there that I need in. If that happens, I just take a pair of tweezers, like so, and then use the tweezers to put the pieces back that I actually didn't want to come out. And you can see where they go because the form is still there. And then push them hard down with my finger, and then they should be all stuck. And there we've got our stencil. How's it growing with the plant? Well, now I've got those both weeded out, all I need to do is pop them on some transfer tape and transfer them onto the wood. Now remember, you need absolutely clean wood. If it has any finish on it at all, strip that off or sand it off and make sure there's nothing on here, no paint, no varnish or anything like that, because it needs to go onto the bare wood. Now I've got that on my transfer tape, I'm ready to put that onto my wood and kind of line it up. I always do everything by eye, as you know, but if you want to measure it out, then you can, and then pop that down. And I want to make sure that that is really on there. Okay, because the last thing I want is any bleeding underneath this once I put the stuff on it. Really important that I get this down fully. Now I will use this transfer tape again. There is no doubt about that. I never use it only once. I use it loads and loads of times. So now that's on there, what I'm definitely going to do is go over it with my roller. I'm also going to gently go over it with my scraper to ensure that that's down. And there's a bit there that wasn't down. And then I'm going to burnish it as well with my fingers, because I really don't want this stuff to get underneath here. And once I'm happy with that, I'll just go ahead and I'll do the other one. The noise that you can hear in the background is the extractor fans that I've got going, because I think they're really, really important. Now, I got this recipe from Jennifer Maker. I'll link her channel in my description below because she's great as well. So thank you, Jennifer, for this recipe. And you need to use a glass jar. And what I'm going to be doing is using 1 teaspoon of ammonia chloride, 2.5 teaspoons of this, which is called Thicket, and it helps thicken it up and stops it going where you don't want it to go. And this is easily, readily available, and it's used for thickening up foods and things like that. So it is quite safe to use. So you need 2.5 teaspoons of this. And you can, if you've got a lid, you can keep this in a cool place. Once you've mixed it up, you can keep it. It's not like it's going to go off or anything, but you can keep it for several weeks. And then I want 8 teaspoons of warm water. And then use a paintbrush and give this a good mix until it's completely thickened. And get rid of any lumps that you've got in it of the thickening agent. And then once you're happy with how well it's mixed, then all you need to do is leave that for about 10 minutes, and then you can come back to it. While that is thickening, what we can do is go and use the pen and get that going. This pen, you just give it a shake, you take that off, you hold it down until the stuff starts to flow out of the nib, and then all you have to do is paint this on here. And you can see the colour. The full instructions are on here, and it tells you exactly what you need to do. But all you do is you just paint this on, the word. This is quite runny and quite thin, so I'm not 100% confident this isn't going to go underneath the stencil. And I've tried to put that stencil down as high as I possibly can onto this wood. It would be really useful for, if it works out, it would be really useful for writing hand messages or doing little pieces like this quite quickly, I suppose. So that's all covered with the pen now. I've written pen on the back, so if it does come out very similar, I know which one is which. So now I have to allow that to completely dry, and this has now been sitting here for about 10 minutes. What you need to do is you need to brush off as much as you possibly can off there, because you don't want too much on your brush when you're putting this on, because when you paint this on, you have to let this dry completely as well. You want a really thin layer of this all over everywhere where you want it to burn. Now be very careful not to put this on any part of the wood that you don't want it to burn, because if you do, it's going to make a mark there. This is why I say it's really useful that you can keep this stuff, because you do have to make up quite a bit. I mean, you could half my recipe, I suppose, well, Jennifer's recipe, and not make up so much. But I suppose if you're doing quite a large sign for outside or something, rather than, or doing lots of these to sell them, then you would need this amount. I'm happy with that, and now what I'm going to do is just let those two completely dry. Probably I'll give them about an hour. If I want to make them dry quicker, I could go over them with a cooler hairdryer or something, but I'm going to give them an hour and then I'll show you what we do next. Well, these are all dry now, and you can see the one with the paste is dry because it goes like this white, well, you can see what it looks like, white flour that's been dried, and this one you can see that it's dry because it no longer has a glossy appearance to it. And all you need to do now is take off your stencil. Oh, and this has bled under there quite badly. Now I'm not actually sure if it's bled under the stencil or it's actually bled along the grain of the wood. I think that's more what's happened there. And I certainly know that other people that have used these pens have had exactly the same issue with it as well. I'm just taking this off, trying not to scratch your wood. You don't want to scratch your wood. And I'm using my weeding tip to get it off. And this one is the one that says pen underneath it, so we won't get them mixed up. Now if you've got some wood with a really tight dense grain, then maybe it wouldn't do that. But this is just a piece of basswood that I'm using here, and that's what I would normally make my little garden signs out of. And like I said, these garden signs are really popular, and they sell so well if you want to sell them. The other thing is with this paste as well, because it's all food safe, you're quite okay to wash it away in your sink. There's no problem with that at all, because people put it into food. So the next step is to go over it with your heat gun. Now my heat gun is a really old one here, so it doesn't have a temperature control on it. So what I'm going to do, I must have had this 30 years. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this heat up a little bit before I use it. I'm going to do the pen first, and what you need to do is make sure you work in a well ventilated area here, or do it outside. I've got really good extractor fans in my studio, so they're on at the moment. I have also got a way of getting smoke out as well, because I've got another extractor fan the other side, so it pulls it across. But if you haven't got that, then work in a really well ventilated area, or just take it outside and do it. So that's hot enough now. Now these are quite thin bits. So what I would suggest is that you move it around quite a lot and not have it too close. And the more heat you do on this pen, the same with the other one, the actual darker it's going to become. Now we can really see on that actually that is a real mess, isn't it? I mean, how's it growing? I mean, you could still probably do something with it, but to be perfectly honest, I'm very disappointed in that. It's just bled across, and I think it is probably to do with the grain. So that's that one. So let's try the one that we did with the paste. And if by magic, this one will start to appear. And again, the more you go over it, the darker it will become. Oh, that's so satisfying. The thicker the bit of wood you've got as well, the less likely you have of it warping or anything happening to it as well. I've only got a really thin bit of wood here because this is what I make using the signs. And I'm quite happy with that now. There is a bit there that I'd like a bit darker, so I'm just going to go and darken that a little bit more. And that G. And that is burnt in there permanently. That is not going to come off. I mean, that is definitely going to come off because I'm going to sand that down and reuse that piece of wood. Or paint it and use this side, because I'm really disappointed with that. So let that cool down, because it is still quite hot. I've got quite asbestosy fingers, so that is still quite hot. And all you need to do now is just take a drill and drill 2 little holes in there once you've varnished it all up, and put a bit of twine on. I would use Yacht Varnish for this because I like Yacht Varnish. It sprays on nice and easily, and also it's a great external varnish. It lasts for, oh, such a long time. Well, it's all finished now. I'm really pleased with how it's come out. I've got the twine on it, and you can definitely see the grain in there, which I think is really important. It's got a nice semi-gloss shine on it from the Yacht Varnish, and I really like the way that the grain is shown up. We've got a nice "How's it growing" sign that we can hang up in the garden, give to someone as a gift, or sell them on your store or on your online shop. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. I'm really pleased it's come out this well. Please give this video a boot because it really does help my videos to get out there. And if you're a first time viewer, then hit that subscribe button to enjoy all the crafts and everything that I do. Everything that I've used today, again, I will link in the description below, along with Jennifer Maker's YouTube channel, because she's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I can only aspire to be like her. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, say thank you for any of my projects and help support this channel, the link for that is in the description below. Take care, enjoy your crafting. Bye.